In this podcast episode, Mohnish Pabrai, a self-made millionaire, shares insights grounded in what he calls the Dando Investor philosophy, a term rooted in Gujarati culture implying a method of doing business with minimal downside risk. Pabrai explains how great entrepreneurs like Bill Gates, Sam Walton, and Richard Branson all embodied this philosophy by minimizing risk and focusing on ventures where the upside was significant, but the downside was effectively limited. This mental model challenges the conventional notion that entrepreneurship is inherently risky by reframing risk as something that can be contained through smart business design. The Dando way emphasizes a strategic mindset of heads I win, tails I don't lose much. This concept underpins many of the lessons Pabrai shares, including how to approach starting a business without jeopardizing one's financial security. Rather than risking everything up front, successful entrepreneurs leverage existing opportunities, clone proven business models, and capitalize on incremental innovation. This creates a foundation where the entrepreneur is shielded from catastrophic losses while still positioned to gain outsized rewards. Pabrai dives into the idea that entrepreneurship does not require reinventing the wheel. In fact, one of the best mental models to employ is cloning, the practice of taking existing business models, products, or ideas, and refining or replicating them in new contexts. Drawing on examples like Microsoft's success in building upon competitors' ideas, e.g., Microsoft Word from WordPerfect, Excel from Lotus, and the Walton family replicating and improving upon Sears and Kmart's retail strategies, he illustrates that cloning is a widely underappreciated strategy. This approach overturns the common belief that original ideas are paramount to success. Instead, Pabrai argues, most humans are better served by learning from and duplicating what has already worked. The core business value often lies in executing existing ideas better, more efficiently, or in untapped markets. Cloning, combined with risk reduction, creates a powerful advantage. By standing on the shoulders of giants, entrepreneurs are significantly ahead of those trying to innovate in isolation. One of the biggest misconceptions Pabrai confronts is the idea that entrepreneurship is inherently high risk. He explains that true entrepreneurs strive to minimize risk, often running their startups part-time initially to keep cash flow steady and reduce exposure. He visually breaks down a typical week into Lego blocks representing hours devoted to sleep, work, and free time, advising that the best strategy is not to quit a day job immediately, but to gradually reallocate free time towards building the business. He stresses maintaining steady income from the 9-to-5 job to cover living expenses while dedicating evenings and weekends to the startup. This dual-track approach lowers risk significantly because if the business fails, the entrepreneur still has a steady paycheck and can return to employment if necessary. He encourages entrepreneurs to view their startup as a passion project first, getting your music out, rather than a quick money-making scheme, setting realistic expectations to work hard and listen closely to customers during the early phases. Pabrai emphasizes the critical role of customer feedback in shaping a successful startup. He retells his own experience pitching to a large bank where a potential client forced him to concentrate on just one pain point, which led him to pivot and focus tightly on that specific issue. He underscores that whatever entrepreneurs think is their great idea is unlikely to work perfectly straight out of the gate because ideas conceived in isolation don't account for the real needs of customers. Through rapid prototyping, presenting early versions of a product or service, and iterating based on customer input, entrepreneurs can tune their offerings much more effectively. This iterative process reveals the true demand and helps to cut through noise to identify the core value proposition. Much like nuanced interviewing or sales conversations, success requires listening far more than talking, extracting meaningful signals, and adjusting accordingly. Entrepreneurship involves repeated rejections and building resilience through persistence, particularly in sales outreach. Pabrai shares the story of his own cold letter campaigns, where he sent thousands of personalized letters weekly to senior executives, following up relentlessly over months to cultivate leads. His math-driven approach is grounded in tracking response, meeting, and closure ratios, ensuring that consistent effort will gradually convert into business. This volume and patience model contrasts sharply with many who give up after a handful of attempts. Pabrai's persistence demonstrates that sales is a numbers game. More attempts increase the chance of conversion. This concept aligns with sports metaphors, like Michael Jordan's "you miss every shot you don't take," and highlights that overcoming initial rejection is essential. Sales resilience also builds confidence and forms the backbone of any startup's early growth. Pabrai references Adam Grant's mental model from Givers and Takers, describing how people generally fall into three behavioral types: givers, takers, and matchers. He encourages entrepreneurs to adopt a giver mindset, where they focus on delivering value without immediately expecting something in return. This approach builds goodwill that compounds over time, leading to widespread support and mutual assistance. He stresses that generosity and integrity should be foundational values for business dealings and team interactions. Goodwill, earned through authentic actions, becomes a form of social capital that can boost business longevity and success. Conversely, takers, those who exploit others without reciprocating, tend to fail because they alienate networks. In this sense, ethics and generosity serve as strategic advantages. Recruiting is positioned by Pabrai as one of the most consequential responsibilities of founders. He shares his conviction that hiring A players is vital and warns that introducing mediocre team members often initiates a negative spiral of declining performance and talent. He insists founders should spend disproportionate time on recruitment, supported by tools like pre-employment testing and personality assessments to filter for integrity, intelligence, and work ethic. Equally important is the willingness to fire fast when hires don't fit the company culture or perform to expectations. This isn't just a business imperative, but also a service to the employee, helping them find a better suit role elsewhere. Pabrai adds that integrity, defined as honesty and high ethical standards, is a non-negotiable trait for team members in any successful business. When discussing personal investing, Pabrai highlights three critical variables: starting capital, investment time horizon, runway, and rate of return, introducing the Rule of 72 as a straightforward mental model for understanding how money doubles over time based on interest rates. For example, a 7% return doubles your money in approximately 10 years, and over multiple decades, compounding results in exponential growth. He shares the famous allegory of the Native Americans selling Manhattan for $23, never investing in a way that would have billions, trillions, and eventually trillions in wealth, illustrating the incredible power of time and compounding. The lesson is simple: start early, save consistently, and invest in broad index funds or diversified portfolios. Pabrai advises investing in low-cost vehicles, such as the S&P 500 index or Berkshire Hathaway, and warns against chasing short-term gains or speculative day trading, which rarely builds lasting wealth. Pabrai explains that starting capital has become far less critical in the modern entrepreneurial environment, where brainpower, creativity, and the ability to leverage assets are paramount. He shares examples like Richard Branson launching Virgin Atlantic with virtually no capital by cleverly leasing an airplane only when it was needed, demonstrating how capital can be creatively replaced or minimized. Similarly, many startups today require minimal upfront investment because digital tools, outsourcing, and lean operations dramatically reduce capital needs. The key is thinking creatively about how to structure deals, minimize fixed costs, avoid debt, and build revenue before investing significant money, thereby preserving downside protection and flexibility. Pabrai elaborates on the importance of building durable moats around a business, the barriers that protect it from competitors and ensure long-term sustainability. Drawing parallels to castles protected by moats, he explains that most businesses start without moats, but as customer habits form and brands develop trust, loyalty becomes a powerful moat. He discusses examples from retail loyalty programs like Amazon Prime and Costco's membership models, which lock in consumers and distort competing behavior by creating incentives to stay within an ecosystem. Over time, these moats can be built through superior customer service, unique product offerings, or scale advantages, making it increasingly difficult for others to displace the incumbent. The conversation touches on the critical role founders play in shaping long-term business trajectories. While founders often have a unique vision and energy for identifying offering gaps and driving innovation, Pabrai tempers this by recognizing the role of luck and the fact that many companies falter when founders leave, as seen with Apple post Steve Jobs or Disney before acquiring Pixar. He also highlights rare examples of businesses built with extraordinary longevity in mind, such as IKEA's founder, who made decisions oriented around a 500-year horizon while avoiding debt and focusing on steady, sustainable growth. Pabrai suggests that founders' long-term vision and discipline often determine whether a business has the endurance to survive beyond the immediate moment. When it comes to investing, Pabrai introduces Warren Buffett's punch card analogy, which suggests investors have a limited number of meaningful bets in their lifetime, around 20 punches. This model encourages caution, thoughtfulness, and selectivity in investments instead of constant, indiscriminate buying and selling. The goal is to deeply understand and stick with the few great investments that can materially drive returns. He points out that the overwhelming majority of investments, especially in venture capital, do not yield significant returns. Thus, most wealth is created by a small subset of investments that become multi-baggers, amplifying capital several times over. For typical investors, this underscores the value of passive, broad market indexing, but also informs active investors to be patient, build conviction, and avoid reactionary sell-offs once a quality investment is identified.